Hard to argue, Steve.
Yeah, they started well, didn't they? But I don't know, mate. I would prefer to start more on a positive. But watching the games over the weekend, I'm as I am as confused as I guess a lot of the listeners, and we'll probably get some calls and texts with the decisions from the referees and specifically the bunkers over the weekend. It's a tough watch at the moment, and you try to, when you've got a voice and you do stuff like this, you try not to completely just double down and hammer officials and because it's I like to be constructive. But geez, watching the weekend was a tough
Well, let's
watch
go
for
there. I'm
teams.
assuming you're talking about the Stephen Crichton hit on Roger as probably the top of the pile there.
That stands out.
There's 4 words that have crept into the rugby league lexicon in recent times, and I want to pick your brain because I haven't heard them before in the last couple of weeks. High level of mitigation was used
I heard
by the referee to explain to the players. And I don't know if the players have been briefed on this low, high, medium, mitigation, no mitigation or whatnot, because I know that the fans certainly haven't. So I was left scratching my head.
Yep.
It looked an absolute just dolly sin bin for me.
Yeah, as straightforward as it comes, especially if you watch Thursday night footy. Like, if you watch Thursday night footy and you've seen 3 players sent off, you could argue, well, I will argue, that Stephen Crichton's was worse than Homoli Olakuatu's and definitely Corey Waddell. I think they got the wrong person in the Corey Waddell one too. That's another one that, like, I thought Taniela Paseka was going to get sent because he's the one that gets shoulder contact to the head. I'm just so confused at the moment, mate. Yeah. Like, whether it be like the officiating from the referees to begin with, and then it's snowballing and adding pressure, and then by the time it gets to the bunker, I don't know how you watch Thursday night footy and then Friday as a Warriors fan, and not left confused, angry, and not that it should matter, but on a big night like Sean Johnson's last game, and what the Warriors like, because if you've got any idea or if you notice it, like with the social media, the Warriors fans, they let you know when they've been dudded, and when they get dudded to this extent, that's when
Is there maybe just a little softening up now that we're 2-3 weeks out from the semis, just to peel it back a touch to say that, well, if that happens in a final, they're not going to be sin binned?
All right, I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking about this on Thursday night, and I was thinking about why we don't, like, I've said that before with regards to, what if that happened in a final? What would you do in a final? And the thing that frustrates me the most is when they get to finals, they do soften up. When they get to Origin games, we had a really bad example in Origin 1, but for the most part, they let you get away with a little bit more. And the refs let them play, and they don't get involved as much. And there are a couple of reasons. First reason, I think the main reason is, by the time we get to finals, there's only 4 groups of referees. So I think we get the best referee. I don't think we've got 8 good referees in the competition right now. I don't think we've got 8. And I've been saying this for a while. I think there are about 3 or 4, and there are even a couple that are, a guy like Adam G, who's been probably one of the top referees. He's had a rough year too in certain games that I've watched. So I think by the time it gets to finals, because we only have 4 referees, basically they've been picked as the best of the bunch throughout the year. Therefore, I think they get more decisions right than their counterparts who aren't refereeing in the games. And they get to the finals and they get to an Origin game and go, let's get, referee it a little bit, a little bit better. And they don't get involved because why? Because they're worried about the consequences and the backlash, because when it is finals time, it is elimination, right? And
everything's under the microscope.
It's under the microscope, and it's going to be even more scrutinised throughout the week. So I think there's a part of them that goes, just let it play, and we end up seeing a better version of rugby league. So that was one of the things that I took out of watching more so the Friday night game, where it's just, I don't know, I felt like Peter Goff just wanted to be involved in that game, like right from the start. 16-0, Manly were travelling, and Peter Goff just found a way to insert himself in that game, and it snowballed, and then he completely lost control of it. And then I think it was Ash Klein was the bunker official, and he comes in, he throws some questionable calls in there as well, and and all of a sudden, Tigers are not only back in the game, but they're on the front foot.
You spoke about confusion. You were left confused after that, the Stephen Crichton non-sin bin. Well, I think Andrew Webster might have just been as confused. And he's such a nice bloke, Webby. You could see him in the press conference just wanting to explode, but he's just so reserved. He sort of kept a lid on it, but this is what he had to say.
I'm struggling to understand how like a shoulder can go into Roger's head and the bunker it's got ages to see it, critical time of the game. And then we lose Roger for the game, and then we've got to reshuffle our team. And like, you got to reshuffle anyway, like that's football. Like, but if it happens, because it just happens. But when it happens like that, and then nothing gets done to them, like we've got to protect our players. Like, and I just don't see the consistency one little bit around that. Like, Roger will miss next week now. Couldn't come back, and their play goes on. That's it. That's all that happens. And there's so many parts in it that we could have controlled better tonight, and the boys know that. But just frustrated how that just happened.
So he did preface it there by saying, there was obviously a few other things in the game that was in their control, but you could hear it in his voice, the frustration there from Webby. I just wonder if that was any other coach, let's say, I don't know, Ricky Stewart, for example.
Any other coach.
That would have been
Ricky's the extreme the other way. Any other coach, I'm telling you, Andrew Webster does such a great job of taking accountability, and he's been one of my favourite parts of him, and the reason I think the Warriors will bounce back next year is, for the most part, he stays away from any of that drama.
Yep.
You can tell, for a guy like him, if you've watched any presses of Andrew Webster, I'm telling you, he does everything he possibly can to take full accountability, mainly for himself when the Warriors play well, and then he's also, willing to call out his plays in the right manner. For him to be questioning the referees at this part of the season shows clear frustration, and again, that's just another, version of highlighting how frustrated not only fans are, but even the coaches now, and a guy like Andrew Webster at the Warriors.
Yeah. Or I'll have your say on the text line, because I know it's one of those things that everyone's got an opinion on sin bins. Was it the right call, wrong call, whatever? Give us your view, 0457 736 736. But in a positive spin, certainly for Bulldogs fans, 34-18, they obviously got the win.
Yep.
Fifth straight win for the Bulldogs. They're now locked in finals footy. First time since 2016. We saw some vision. So the game isn't anywhere near Belmore. In fact, it's not even in the country, and they still turn up to the main drag there and get the drums out, and the cars are tooting their horn. So if they are to win a final, it's going to be absolutely incredible scenes. But I think the most pleasing thing for Bulldog supporters will be the third game in a row where they've kept the opposition to 0 in the second half.
Yeah, super impressive. We got a text here from Lionel as well. I get this a fair bit on levels. This is, how's the spoon prediction going, Scopey? This is referring to the Dogs. I had the Dogs winning the spoon too, by the way, Brooksy. I don't know if you were aware of this. You're right. There's levels to this. And when it comes to predictions at the start of the year, you suck. Laugh out loud. Thanks, Lionel. I also predicted Melbourne to win the comp. I predicted a team from outside of the 8 to make the 8 this year was the Cowboys. A team to fall out was the Raiders. So there are a few predictions that
we don't care about the ones you got right.
That I got right, but listeners always want to highlight when you got wrong. And then honestly, that is the one I hate doing the most, because I'm so happy for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's where I guess, when we talked about the negativity at the start of the show, and I want to speak about some positives. 3 positives that stand out for me. And I was watching when Kurt Moran comes off the bench and scores his first try,
yep.
and Harry Hayes comes off and was just blitzing him through the middle. Those 2 guys in particular, they represent what's so good about the Bulldogs right now. Because Harry Hayes, Curtis Moran, and even Jacob Kiraz, when they made their debuts, those guys, they weren't part of the top 30. And what that does is it keeps accountability in the playing group. So the big name players in the team are aware, and they see guys like this. One, they get happy and they're glad that players like that are rewarded. But what it gets you going, get you thinking, like subconsciously as well, like, Cameron Cireldo is not afraid to bring in his 2 years. He's not afraid to bring anyone in who can have a crack and put their best foot forward for this club. And I think for the most part, I think they're all local juniors too, which is another great sign.
Yep.
Maybe I'm a little bit more unsure of Harry Hayes because he's a bit of a late bloomer that's come out of nowhere. But I believe he's even got some lineage through the club, maybe his grandfather played at the club. And I picked the Bulldogs in this game. I knew there was going to be emotion in this game, and just because I was critical of the Stephen Crichton non-sin binning, doesn't mean I didn't think the Bulldogs were the best team and would have eventually won. It just makes it way harder for the Warriors.
Yep.
Or the Warriors have been in that position before where someone's been sent, it's completely crippled them, right? So the reason I thought Bulldogs, I made a decision probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago after watching the Broncos game, and I went, at this time of the year, I'm taking teams that I trust more than potentially getting up for a big milestone game or on talent. And that's why I was on the Bulldogs in this game. And they had one big call go their way, but for the most part, mate, they fought their way back after a slow start. And the way they defend, and they've got this new version of what Penrith Panthers been doing, obviously through Cam Cireldo, they suffocate teams in yardage with, we used to call it, carrying. Like you get in, you get contact, and rather than getting contact and trying to tackle a player straight to the game, it's a bit of a gang tackle. You get each other. They always wait till, for the most part, for as much as they can, wait till 2 or 3 are in the tackle and drag them back, turn you off the spot, flip yourself on the... How many times, if you watch it back, where you see Warriors players complaining that they've been pushed sideways and can't play the ball straight, and then the referee, White, I think Raymond, he sends them back and makes them play the ball again. They're just in a really good spot, mate, and they are so primed for finals footy. First time they'll be there since 2016, so plenty of good about what the Bulldogs did as well.
So you said you predicted them to, probably struggle more so than what they've done this year. But at the start of the year, that prediction was looking pretty good. I think they started very slow and there wasn't great signs. But
I was actually, the first game against Parramatta and Cronulla game early on, they lost both of those games, and I left those games going, I didn't think they were going to be a top 8 team, don't get me wrong. But I was like, you know what? They're going to have a crack this year, and Cam Cireldo's building something here. By no means did I think they were going to be the team that they are now, but they showed some really good signs against the Parramatta Eels for about 60, 65 minutes, and then the class of Parramatta at that point of the season with a full roster blew them away in the last 15 minutes. And then you remember the game against Cronulla, we caught it here at SEN. Poasa Farmasuli got knocked out off the very first carry.
That's right, yeah.
And they had a Viliami kick-out no try when I think it was the fullback for Cronulla ran into the referee, or Trindle ran into the referee, and they were disallowed that, and they were so tough in that game. So there have been some signs that this has been coming. By no means did I think they were going to be pushing for a top 4 spot.
Yeah,
but that's for sure.